taking what they're giving, cause I'm working for a living.
This is the Checka Pro Radio Show, sponsored by CheckaPro.com. To find pre-qualified local service providers, click on CheckaPro.com. Here's your host, the man with a hard hat and tool belt, Jim Clauk.
And we're back on the Checka Pro Radio Show. Hey, if you have not ordered the free $25 gift card, what are you waiting for? Go to CheckaPro.com. We even mail it to you for free. It can be used over and over again with over 200 pre-qualified Checka Pro members. Go right now, CheckaPro.com. This segment of the Checka Pro Radio Show is brought to you by Brazos Valley Services. It's an air conditioning and heating company. You know Ronnie Vai. He's on my show all the time. He's our official AC guy right here on Checka Pro Radio. Write his number down. It's getting warmer outside. If you have any trouble this year, call him, 281-391-1510. That's 281-391-1510, or go to his website, BrazosValleyServices.com. And by the way, all of our pre-qualified Checka Pro sponsors right here on the show can be found at CheckaProRadioShow.com or CheckaPro.com. My buddy Doc Greene came to visit me here in the Checka Pro studios today. Mr. AV expert himself. Doc, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Okay, today you did a little field trip. Well, it's not really a field trip. It's what you always do. You go to work, and what you do, besides all audio video, you calibrate televisions, and we want to talk about that today specifically. You went out this morning, and you did a calibration. When I spoke to you the other day on the phone, I said, when you come into the studio, let's talk about exactly what you did in that process. And from what I understand from you, there are at least two types of packages you can offer, or that you do offer your customer. One's a basic and one's more of a high-end.
Well, that's right, and calibration is absolutely key. And we do have the two packages. One of them is for the average guy that just wants a great-looking picture on his TV to watch an occasional movie and to watch the news. The other calibration is for the person who is a serious movie buff and everything has to be exactly the right color as it was shown in a theater. That calibration takes about 3 hours and consequently costs a little more.
You know, I was just thinking, you really must be, in order to want your TV calibrated to that level, really must be into movies.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
and I have clients like that movies are their main thing, and they watch at least one movie every week.
Okay.
And many times it's a family affair, but dad, occasionally mom, really has to have that be right. So, for instance, Ferrari red has to be Ferrari red if it's sitting on the beach, or if it's parked in a parking garage, it still has to be the correct color of Ferrari red. And that's what you get when you do a complete grayscale calibration on your television. And they can't do this at the factory. It's not like the factory's not treating you well. It's simply a matter of the fact that it takes 3 hours in the environment with the correct wall color and the correct lighting to set that grayscale to be correct to your eye.
We talk about torch mode all the time. That's how the TVs are programmed in the factory. When they arrive in your home, they're in this torch mode, as you call it. So what you're saying, Doc, is the television can't be calibrated. It cannot look perfect until it's in its environment. Much like maybe other products that you would ship around the world, if you're using a certain product in a humid area, you might have to do something different, than a dry area. I do know, for instance, from my snowmobile days years ago, if you're using a snowmobile, this was years ago, you'd have to change the calibration in the carburetor for higher altitudes because of the air. Think about it. The air and the fuel mixture, same type of thing. It depends upon the application. So if you're in a dark room with no natural light at all, you're going to have to calibrate it for that. And it may even have to do with the color of the wall.
That's very true. In fact, for many people that have the multi-use rooms, there's a lot of light coming in during the day, and then at night it's fairly dark in there. When we're doing that, some TVs allow us to have what's called an ISF day setting and an ISF night setting, and we can put that button on your remote control. So you can determine, I want the perfect picture during the day, and I press this button, but now it's night, and I want the perfect picture tonight. So that setting is available on some of the better quality TVs out there. Otherwise, we have to know, are you going to watch this predominantly during the day? Are we doing this for Sunday afternoon football? Or are we doing this so that we can watch a Friday night movie when all the lights are going to be out? And then we will adjust the calibration toward that brightness level.
Do the TVs ever come out of calibration? And if so, how long does it take in general?
Typically, once you've calibrated a TV, you can expect to get about 2 years out of that calibration before it should be tweaked up again. So we do recommend every 2 years, have me or one of my guys come out, kind of tweak your TV up and get it back to looking as good as it did on the day that it was new.
Now, Doc, you're a pre-qualified Check-A-Pro member at checkapro.com. Why shouldn't people do this themselves? You're a professional. You're here in the studio with me. Why shouldn't people attempt this themselves? Because doesn't it come with some equipment and a book to do this?
Well, unfortunately not. It takes a lot of training, first of all. Every TV brand does things differently. And even in the same line of TVs, for instance, today I was working on a Sony Bravia set. Even within that line, the menu options differ from television to television, and there are a number of settings that if you don't know what they do, you shouldn't be changing them. And so we are trained to do that. We have hours and hours of classroom time where we are instructed by movie producers and we're instructed by television designers and technicians and consultants on how TVs work and how, for instance, Samsung does it different than Sony or Panasonic, so that we know that when we go in there, when we go in there, we know that on the Sony, we set this setting to B, but if it's Panasonic, it's the opposite. And sometimes on is off and sometimes off is on. So you have to know what's going to happen in a particular set. And that's what we do, and that's why you need a pro. And you need a pro that's got the thousands of dollars worth of gear to do this with also, and we do.
Technology has gotten great. It's so much better in so many ways, but we can no longer even change the oil in our own cars. Years ago, people would change their plugs. They would work on their brakes. I don't even change a flat tire anymore, to be honest with you. So things have changed a lot. Everything has gotten to be so much better in terms of quality, but we need experts like Doc to come into our homes to get the most out of it. So don't spend thousands of dollars on a television and not have it calibrated. It doesn't cost thousands to have it calibrated. It doesn't cost that much. Just get it done so you have it at its maximum. If you buy a Ferrari, why would you put bad gas in it? It doesn't make any sense, right? Or even if you bought a Mercedes or maybe even a Toyota, put in the recommended fuel. Get the oil change. Get the tires rotated. You have to have maintenance. Now, I'm not so sure if calibration is maintenance, but at least in the beginning, that's the start. Get it up right the first time, and then maybe a couple of years later, a few years later, it may need to be calibrated again. And I'm going to guess that the average homeowner isn't going to notice that change over 2 or 3 years in their television picture.
It's too gradual to notice.
Sure.
So you do need a professional. You do need the proper test patterns in order to be able to tell. But you can take my word for it. It's going to change over a period of 2 years, and it needs to be redone. But if you bought that new TV and you've not had it calibrated, you need to call AV Expert and let us do something for you on that. The best thing that we can do for you is we can not only make that picture look fabulous, but I can reduce the amount of energy consumption by about 80% in the process because we're taking it out of torch mode.
Yeah.
And it's all of a sudden going to use way less energy. And when it uses less energy, it generates less heat. So now you've done two things, going back to our good friend Gary Parr, for instance, with 30 Greene.
Sure.
You've done two things. You've extended the life of your TV, you've reduced the amount of power consumption in your home, and you got a great picture. Where do you lose on that?
Doc's phone number is 281-856-8367. 281-856-8367. Write down his website. It's easy, avexpert.us. avexpert.us. You can find him at checkaproradioshow.com, and he's on checkapro.com. You do accept the $25 gift card, don't you?
Well, yes. You know, basic calibration, which is what most people need, is $150. But if you've got the Check-A-Pro gift card, it's $125.
Great.
So that's a great deal for the people that listen to this show.
Okay, let's switch gears just a little bit. We talked about calibration of televisions. You also calibrate sound systems. You put them into the proper mode. For years, 5.1 systems were the standard. It's expanded now. What is the biggest we've got? 7.1? Does it go beyond that now?
11.1.
Oh, 11.1. So I'm a little bit behind. 11.1. Not everyone is qualified as a homeowner to be able to set up their system, are they?
You really can't. Setting up a surround sound system takes hours and hours of classroom education. And we go to the specific manufacturers and we take their classes. For instance, to set up a Denon receiver, 8 hours of classroom time, half hour for lunch. It's like drinking from the fire hose, and you've got to have 4 hours of prerequisite online education before you can sign up for the live class, which you have to go out of town for. That's why we're Denon CI, Custom Install Certified, if you look at our website. But we can do things, and regardless of what kind of system you have, I promise you I will make it sound better than it ever has, or you don't pay.
Wow. Money back guarantee.
It really is. Same thing on the video calibration, by the way. But I've never had a sound system ever that I couldn't make sound better than it did when I got there, and that's including some of these guys that are serious hobbyists that have read all the websites and they think they really know their stuff, and indeed they know a lot, but there's no way you can know what we know unless you're going to dedicate your life to this particular discipline.
Excellent. Hey, Doc, thanks for joining me today in Checka Pro Studios. Once again, Doc Greene, our AV expert. He is also the AV expert. His phone number is 281-856-8367. Write it down, 281-856-8367. For lots more information, go to his website at avexpert.us. Doc, as always, thanks.
Thanks, and don't forget, we sell fun.